Hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mike Francesa podcast, part of the Bet Rivers Network. You know, it's been a while here in these final fleeting days of summer since we've gone and checked out some emails. So let's do that. And I remind you, send your emails to Mike Francesa podcast. Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. Mike Francesa podcast at gmail.com. And let's see how many we can get to today. We'll rip through some emails, see what's on your mind. Joseph, how much credence do you give to Rob Manfred's recently announced realignment ideas? Hey, this is an idea that has finally come. I think the thing that was mentioned that was more important than the idea of the realignment that would put the Yankees and the Red Sox and the Phillies and the Mets in the same division, which is logical. Geographically, is expansion, which is not logical, which doesn't make much sense. And I don't think the cities that are going to do a good job of supporting baseball, because baseball hasn't been well supported in every city with the number of teams they have now. So expansion surprised me more than realignment. And I think expansion is much more problematic than realignment will be. Baseball's real issue, what they would like to do, and they have a problem with because they're very conscious of their historical link to the past. They would like to shorten the regular season and expand their playoffs because that's where their money is made. And that's where your national money is made. Which also, when I say national money, that allows them to try to equalize to some extent the revenue between the haves and the have-nots, which you still have in baseball. I hear people, meaning broadcasters, talk about salary cap. Oh, baseball's going to, that's the answer. Baseball will never, ever, mark it down, will never have a salary cap. Players will never agree to it, ever. They're too steeped in the traditions of the Players Association, which is still one of the most powerful unions on earth. They will not have a salary cap. They might have expanded revenue sharing. They might be able to neutralize in different ways certain revenue streams, secondary and tertiary revenue streams that they can somehow equalize, but they will never have a salary cap that the other sports have. Will not happen. Doesn't matter what percentage of the gross, even if they have a sport where you have revenues in almost the same percentages, where somewhere between 50 and 55% of the revenues are going to the players, which is pretty much the models now. Doesn't matter. You will still not have it with a salary cap in baseball. Baseball players will never agree to a salary cap. I would be stunned, shocked, knocked to the ground if they agreed to a salary cap. Danny, who is more deserving as a Hall of Famer, in your opinion, Eli Manning or Russell Wilson? Eli Manning. Hands down. Bradley, are you shocked by the career that Kyle Schwarber has had? No, not in the least. As a matter of fact, if you heard shows of mine years and years ago, I begged Cashman to get Schwarber. When he was bouncing around and when he was at his lowest depths, I thought he would have been a great reclamation project for Yankee Stadium. I thought he would be as dangerous a hitter as there is in Yankee Stadium. And he is a poster boy for what they teach now. Doesn't matter how much you strike out. Get on base, including the walk, make the walk a tool, and hit the ball out of the ballpark. And nobody does that better than Schwarber, who has incredible power and is also hitting big moments. And believe it or not, has a chance to get to the Hall of Fame. Despite being a very low average hitter, has a chance to get to the Hall of Fame. He has had a very impressive career. And I am not in the least bit surprised by what he's done. Auntie, will Don Mattingly ever get the chance to coach the Yanks? Now, does that mean, you say coach, does that mean be a coach on the Yankees, a bench coach, a hitting coach, or do you mean manager? If I'm thinking you mean manager and you just said coach, if you say manager, I do not think Don Mattingly will ever be the manager of the Yankees. I think that day is past. Could I see him maybe as a bench coach or a hitting coach on the Yankees? Yes. I don't think that's outrageous. I think he's a good baseball man. He's a good person. He's a Yankee great, despite not having the rings, which is a prerequisite for being a Yankee great. There are two Yankees who were just born at the wrong time. One was Mattingly, the other was Mel Stottlemyre. Now, Mel Stottlemyre got to a World Series. He helped pitch them there. He came in the middle of August and went 9-3 down the stretch and led the Yankees back in a pennant race against the Orioles and the White Sox to a pennant, and then a 7-game loss against the Bob Gibson-led Cardinals in what is still one of the great series of all time, and a pivotal series in a lot of ways, an historic series, a series that helped started to change the sport as we know it. Read Halberstam's book if you want to understand why. Mattingly will always be a welcome Yankee. So I would never say the door is closed to him, but I do not think he will ever manage the team. And I believe that is really the essence of your question. I do not think he will ever manage the team. Anthony, how do you feel about the logo on the front of the jerseys and the advertisements on the sleeve? You know what? We live in an era where marketing and merchandising is as important as breathing to these teams and to these leagues. Owners pay big money for franchises and they want to expand their billions into more billions. And now it takes billions to own teams. You have to have a lead guy who's a billionaire on every one of these franchises now. Can't buy a team otherwise. And let's be honest, commissioners are rewarded not for being good stewards of the game. They are rewarded for being producers of revenue and being protectors of the logo, or as Goodell would say, protector of the shield. That's their job. Put out fires, create revenue streams. That's how you wind up making, $50 or $60 million as a commissioner, like the NFL commissioner makes. I think his salary might even be in the 70s now. Being a commissioner is a big job now. It's a big paying job. And you are not the steward. You are not in charge of the sport. You are an employee of the owners, something the players never lose sight of anymore. Matt, imagine throughout your years in the sports world, you've had opportunities to get autographs. Is there anything that you have signed by a celebrity or an athlete or an entertainer that is sentimental? I've never been into collectibles. I've never asked anybody for an autograph in my life. It's not what I do. I did not collect things throughout my long career as a broadcaster. The only stuff I have is stuff that was given to me in friendship or as a gift. I do have some stuff in that regard, but not a lot. The only ball that I have that's a keepsake was signed by Richard Nixon, believe it or not. And I would have liked to get a Kennedy ball to add to the collection, except they're insanely expensive, and I would not pay $25,000 for a Kennedy ball because there are not a lot of them, first of all. And I just always wanted a Kennedy ball to put next to the Nixon ball. And that's the only real ball that I keep, is the one that was signed by Richard Nixon. Just an odd circumstance to set that up. I don't have. There's some pictures as you come down this hall outside my studio. through the years of different people, Don Zimmer, Bernie, Lawrence Taylor. There's a jersey that Kurt Schilling sent me. There's a couple things from Joe Torre. There's stuff from Parcells. There's some, horse racing stuff. There's a couple of fan things, but not a lot. I'm not a collector in any way, and no, I've never been one. And I know the teams frown on the media doing that. I don't know if there's guys. I'm sure there have been. I've never been a card collector in any way or a collectible in any way. And I'm sure there's people in the media who have collected a lot of stuff on the side, gotten people to sign stuff or given it to their kids and stuff like that. I've never done that. I mean, I'm not saying my kids didn't get autographs. Listen, I took my kids to Giant Camp when we would do a show there, and they would get autographs from all the Giants. And everyone who came on the show, they would sign for them. So I'm not saying Eli did stuff and threw passes to them and signed stuff for them. And they had stuff growing up in that regard from players. And I did take them on the field sometimes. They used to have a catch with Wheeler when they were young. He was always good to them. Jabba Chamberlain was another one who was very good to them when they were young. Now it's a long time ago. But when they were like 4 and 6, I used to take them to the games and stuff, or even through the years. But I never was one to collect stuff. It wasn't my thing. So I'm not the person for that. I'm not into the collectible world. I never have been. I don't know anything about it. I don't spend any time on it. Raj, 25th anniversary of the Ravens. Oh, terrible Super Bowl. And the 40th anniversary of the 85 Bears. Which defense would you rate as the best? And do you think either unit could shut down any offense in history? The answer to the second question is absolutely yes. That Raven defense got to be terrific, but it was not the equal of the 85 Bears. The 85 Bears was the best defense I've ever seen. Now, I was at games, the Giant game in that brutally cold day. I was there. I was working for the NFL Today. I was on the field for that game. I was on the field the next week when Dieter Brock and the Rams came in, and Buddy predicted that not only would they get shut out, that they would fumble a bunch of times. They did, and they got shut out. Remember, they shut out the Giants. They shut out the Rams, both at home, frigid weather. And they held the Pats to 10 meaningless points in the Super Bowl in what I think was a 46-10 win. That's the best defense I ever saw. And I saw it in person a bunch of times, and it was really, really good. That's the great Bears, Buddy Ryan orchestrated defense when he was the defensive coordinator. That was a great, great defense. That Raven one got better and better and better. There's a play in that Super Bowl, and one of you guys can call Tiki if you ever get a chance and ask him about this. Tiki looks like he is going to be in the open field. And this play is right around the 30-yard line, if I remember, because I was sitting about the 35 for that game. And it looked like he had some space. And Ray Lewis was about 10 or 15 yards away. And Ray Lewis got there like that. I mean, I was stunned. It was visually stunning how quickly Ray Lewis got there and got him. I'll never forget it. And I was like, wow, where did he come from? I was stunned by how quickly he got Tiki. And Tiki was quick. And it just showed you how quick Ray Lewis was. I was not the biggest Ray Lewis fan, but he had a lot of ability. Brad, can you think of a player that was more of a compiler of stats than Carl Yastrezmski? Carl Yastrezmski was not a compiler. Now, did he play too long? Absolutely. Did he wind up playing 23 years and not having stats commensurate with 23 years of play? Yes. Was he Mickey Mantle or Willie Mays or Hank Aaron? No. But a couple of things about Yaz. Yaz was, without question, a generational player. He really watered his stats down in later years. So 3,400 hits doesn't look like a lot. 450 home runs or whatever he hit, 452 home runs, doesn't look like a lot when you play 23 years. Yaz in 67, when he led the Red Sox from 9th place to the 7th game of the World Series. That year, he did win the Triple Crown. He won the MVP. He wasn't the best player I've ever seen, but he was more valuable to his team's run that year than any player I have ever seen in all my years of watching baseball. He was past good. He was utterly brilliant. And this is a guy who hit 40 home runs 3 times. This is a guy who won multiple Gold Gloves, was a great fielder, was a clutch hitter, was a winning player. He didn't play a lot in the postseason. Played in 2 World Series. His lifetime World Series batting average is 350 something. Played in 1 ALCS. He hit 455. Yaz was big in the big moment. And to call him a compiler does him a complete injustice. There are compilers in the World Series. It's a term that I know people like to quote with me because I use it all the time. And I didn't like compilers. But Yaz was not a compiler in any way. What are your thoughts? And listen, he's a good player. Listen, if you look at Willie Mays for his career, and all these guys wind up watering their stats down in the last couple of years because they don't do the same as they always did. Mantle 65 to 68, Mays in his later years, etc. Mays is a lifetime 940 OPS guy. Hank Aaron's a lifetime 927 OPS guy. Frank Robinson's a lifetime 920-something OPS guy. Mickey Mantle's higher because of his power and his walks. He's a 977 OPS guy. And from 51 to 64, over 1,000. The best offensive player of all time, without question, was Ruth and Ted Williams, are the two. Ted Williams' numbers, when you realize you take extrapolate 5 years out of his career in his prime, his lifetime OPS is over 1.1. Other than Ruth, he was the greatest offensive player who ever lived. Not even close. He would have hit 700 home runs. And he's a 344 lifetime hitter. Now, he wasn't a winning player. He wouldn't expand the zone. He wouldn't try to win a game and do something. He wasn't a good fielder. He might not have been the greatest teammate, but he was the greatest darn hitter. Maybe the exception of Ruth ever. That's how good he was. Yaz, though, was not a compiler. He was a cut below those guys I mentioned. He wasn't Frank Robinson or Hank Aaron or Willie Mays or Mickey Mantle, but he also was not a compiler. He was a really tremendous player. And at one point, a great player.